Hi, I'm Kelly and I'm here with Karyn. And today we're here to continue to answer your questions about grief and loss. If you like our content, please make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on our latest videos. They come out every Wednesday and Saturday. So today's question is for Karyn, and we are getting to the cooler months here in upstate New York and the change of seasons. And so the question is, why am I finding the end of summer so difficult?
Yeah, well, here in Pennsylvania, kind of the same same
No.
thing, where we do have our very distinct seasons, which is why people here love it. They do love all of the changing seasons, but I think for grieving people, it's definitely a very different experience. So I think we can kind of talk about both of those, the changing seasons and the end of summer. In terms of like the end of summer, I find that about like late August, early September, people are starting to talk about the holidays, which is really like probably surprising maybe to other people because there's that little bit of focus like, well, summer's over, back to school. But I think there's probably a number of different reasons. But what I find is that like a lot of it is based on being out in stores, like go to Target. You go to Target and like the end of summer is back to school. Before September's even over, back to school gets replaced with Halloween. Then Halloween stuff very quickly turns into Thanksgiving, and then that turns into, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, and all of that. So it's like really a third of the year. It's like this 4 month period that all of a sudden just gets attached to the
Mhm.
holidays. And I remember it used to surprise me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like August and we're already thinking about the holidays in terms of like talking to grieving people. But I've had it come up so frequently and I'm starting to understand it's like just this one long slide, it feels like, into the holidays.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think, even for here up in upstate New York, the fall, there's so many different like things. People go apple picking, pumpkin picking, right? There's all of these like haunted hay rides, all of these things that maybe are reminders of things they did with their loved ones as well. And
Yeah.
so it is really the beginning of the holiday season, like so early. And I know a lot of my clients and are talking about what they're going to do for the holidays, the winter holidays, because they're trying to make plans for it. Are they going to stay at home? Or are they going to go somewhere else? And so I think personally speaking, what I see is fall and spring seem to be the hardest times of the year for people because of that. Like it is a pretty big change of season, right? It's a big drastic change. And then we look at fall and it is the beginning of that holiday season.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess it goes back to that idea that just the holidays and the seasons in general can be really tough. One,
Mhm.
I think transitions are difficult when you're grieving. I think you're trying to find a place that you're kind of like feeling a little bit settled and then something is starting to change again. And I think, I have a woman that I work with that hates sunny days. I mean, really, really hates sunny days because anytime it was nice out, she and her husband were like, let's get in the car, let's go do something, and she doesn't have him to do that with. And she doesn't particularly want to do it herself. And she finds that she welcomes rainy weather. At the same time, both of us, of course, being in the Northeast, do talk to people up here through we get a lot of dark gray, long sort of winter feeling, and
Yeah.
that's not great either,
No.
so it's hard.
Exactly. Well, and summer's so busy. People are busy. We're out and about. We're doing things. People are taking vacations, holidays, and then especially the time changes. I mean, up here it's 4:30 and it's dark.
Yep.
And I can't stand it to be
Yeah.
completely honest
Yeah.
myself. But you have that big, and people just want to kind of not do as much. They kind of want to hibernate a little bit. But then when you're home alone more often or not with your loved one, it brings up more of the grief, I think, more time to actually sit with that grief than maybe during the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have to remember too that everyone has these like dates. We have the anniversary of the loss,
Mhm.
but we know like this is when we came back from vacation and he started not feeling well and he went to the doctor and things started to go downhill. Like, there's those points throughout the year that do become associated
Yeah.
with the seasons. I had a woman in a group one time and I thought this was so like almost poetic. And she said, I hate the smell of April. And April was the month And as soon as you say that, it's like, well, we know what April smells like. It's like that rainy kind of, things are growing, and she associates that smell now with the loss of her father, because that's when everything was happening.
Mhm.
So the seasons are also very much, and it's like you don't even have to be aware of it, and then you just start to feel this change. It's like
Absolutely.
as the seasons are changing, you're feeling, and a lot, oftentimes it's really good for people who are kind of further along and they find themselves kind of going downhill a little bit,
Mhm.
and they're
And
like,
not
what?
knowing why.
And not knowing why. Exactly. Exactly. And it's like that's often, I think, the reason why, because I think there's that shift, that you're getting closer to that time where everything was happening. And I always say, even if you're not thinking about it, it's like it in your bones. Like
Mhm.
it's definitely there.
So, Karen, for somebody that is struggling with this time of the year, what would you suggest would be helpful?
Well, I mean, it's kind of more the general advice that I give for people anytime we're kind of projecting too far ahead. It's like trying to bring ourselves back to the present and focus on today and where I can put my energy. I do also, and we're going to talk about the holidays a ton. I know you and I have said that because there's just so much. But, it really, if we are talking from September through December, September, October, November, December, it's 4 months, a third of the year, we are spent in like this feeling of like dread, and we're kind of tensed up and preparing for it, when really we're talking about Thanksgiving being one day, Christmas Eve, and we're talking about a few days. And yes, they will be challenging, and it's not to diminish any of that, but I feel like some of that dread that we put into a few days for a third of the year is something that we want to refocus on. They're still just a 24-hour period, just like the 24-hour period that we'll go through today.
Mm.
And we can survive them and get through them. So I always kind of say, if you're starting to think about that, like let's pull back, like what can you do today? What can you focus on today? We'll get to that. We will have time to talk about that, think about that, get support through that. Yeah. And I would suggest that people sort of maybe start to think about what their supports could be and what they could have ready for that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. We'll talk more about the holidays, but it's also thinking about maybe you do something different this year.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And so you just because you've done things a certain way all these years doesn't mean you have to continue to do that. You can take a break from a holiday. You can skip a holiday. You can,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, but like it's for this year. Next year
exactly.
can be different, the year after. I think we get very concerned about changing traditions
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah, but again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
No,
We
no, no.
need to, because I know we both have a lot to say on the subject, but really for the moment, it's like let's kind of stay in the present. I always say to everybody, you got plenty to worry about today without having to worry about December and August. So we'll do our best with all of that. That's for sure. So thank you, Kelly.
Well, thank you, Karen. And again, if you like our content, please feel free to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of our videos. Thanks so much for watching.